Okay, so hear me out for a second. Power Rangers Hexagon was the theoretical 11th season of Power Rangers, the Bible of which was written sometime between 2001 to 2002. Planned to be filmed in LA during the time of Fox Family Worldwide being sold to Disney for a whopping $3 billion, it was meant to bring back cast members from Mighty Morphin all the way to Wild Force, its most recent season at the time. The concept, written by series writer Amit Balmeek, was meant to unify the franchise's canon long before the anniversary season of Megaforce, and act as a capstone to the Saban era leading into the Disney era. Amit Balmeek was a writer on Power Rangers Wild Force, specifically the team-up two-parter Reinforcements from the Future, a character-focused team-up that furthered not only the canon of the franchise as one shared universe, but it even expanded the concept into one of the most famous episodes of the franchise, Forever Red. The plot, which was later revealed on Balmeek's Tumblr years later, was as such. Every Ranger team has united under one roof, the Hexagon. The Hexagon, led by resident power switcher Tommy Oliver as a pseudo-Nick Fury, would act as both a public base for the Rangers and as a training ground for new ones. Hexagon would effectively make the Rangers not only a public organization, but also one with immense power over the defense and fate of the planet Earth. The Sentai that would be used, Ninpuu Sentai Hurricanger, would be split between two dueling teams. One team, the main red, yellow, blue, would act as cadets in Hexagon and be sent out on missions by Tommy to fight remaining members of previous season's villains groups and tie up loose ends from the prior 10 seasons. The other Ranger team, the Beetle Rangers of a darker color, would actively be against the Hexagon system. Mentored by the original Red Ranger, Jason, this team of 3 darker alternates would fight the team in a sort of proxy war between Hexagon and those who defy Tommy's organization. Essentially Marvel's Civil War years before Civil War was ever published. The end of the season would result in Tommy regaining the Green Ranger powers in the form of Hurricanger's Samurai Ranger. The Ranger cadets would fight against him to make him see the error of his ways and, inevitably, dissolve Hexagon and its internal corruption for good. Now, the only time Super Sentai has ever attempted something of this nature was with Kaitou Sentai Lupinranger versus Keisatsu Sentai Patranger in 2018. The structure of which not being nearly as connected to prior canon as their anniversary seasons like Gotobun or Zenkaiser. However, Disney executives would effectively scrap the pitch, moving later productions of seasons such as the inevitable Power Rangers Ninja Storm to New Zealand for cost-saving measures. And although the franchise would change hands again back in 2009 to Saban, the concept of Hexagon was far too outdated to warrant a revival. The core ideas of Hexagon, though, the corruption of Rangers due to their organization firmly being established in the public eye, the remaining villains of previous seasons struggling to survive and on the defensive, and even Ranger cadets training to fill the shoes of the previous generation. All of these concepts would coalesce in an unlikely place, written and drawn by an unlikely source. Negi Haruba is a mangaka whose claim to fame and first major ongoing series was Gotobun no Hanayome, or Quintessential Quintuplets, a harem romance series that ran in Kodansha's weekly shonen magazine from 2017 to 2020. He had one-shots published throughout the early 2010s, but Quintessential Quintuplets was a runaway success for a time. In 2020, even beating out sales for both My Hero Academia and Attack on Titan. After its somewhat abrupt ending, resulting in a flame war about the winner of the series, Haruba put out a call for assistance that October, looking to work on screen tones and backgrounds for his next work. The series, which would be published in Weekly Shonen Magazine, was to launch that February, and surprise Haruba's audience by heavily changing genres. Sentai Daishikkaku, or more commonly translated as Ranger Reject, is a shonen action drama based on a Super Sentai gaining control over the world. At least, in secret. 13 years ago, a giant floating castle appeared above a city, the executives of a villain group known as the Dusters declaring their goal for world domination. Within a single year, the newly created Dragon Keepers would annihilate almost all of the known executives, forcing the remaining Dusters to surrender to the Savage Sentai team. The team, instead of killing every villain left, decided to do something much more insidious. Continue the war against the Dusters on the surface, when in reality the Dusters really work for them. This results in the Dragon Keepers becoming wildly popular and incredibly influential in the city's government, developing a legitimate profession that any human wanting to fight against the aliens could aspire to. Our main protagonist is not one of these humans, however. It's a rogue duster who wants to end the Rangers' facade once and for all. Foot Soldier D's plan is to disguise himself as a human and integrate into the Rangers' ranks, climbing the ladder until he can expose the Rangers for who they really are and inevitably dominate the world. That is the selling point for Ranger Reject, but it really doesn't do it enough justice. Ranger Reject has a lot of twists and turns, changes in identity for Foot Soldier D, and even secrets revealed that even the Dusters don't know about the Rangers organization. The thing that the manga hammers home is that everyone joins the Rangers for their own reasons, some being admirable and some just being out of circumstance. The organization itself is divided into 5 battalions with different rankings leading up to the possible replacements for the Dragon Keepers themselves. Our main protagonist barely knows anything about the human world, and is learning as he goes based on his experience in the Sunday battles, the weekly event that the Dragon Keepers hold in order to maintain the facade of war between the Dusters. The Dusters' main ability is their regeneration and shapeshifting, the thing that's allowed the public to believe that the executives aren't all dead, and that the war is still very much a thing. Because without the war, the Rangers have no use. Without a villain to fight, what's the point of having superheroes? Especially ones as ruthless and hooked into society as the Rangers. The Rangers themselves, the Dragon Keepers and their divine tools, are very comparable to the Seven from The Boys. They're all public-facing good guys with very split personalities behind the scenes. The beloved Red is secretly a huge dick, who actively beats and belittles anyone who questions him, including his own subordinates. Blue is pretty much a loudmouth delinquent with a heart of gold, but that heart is buried under a tough and violent exterior. Pink is secretly a paralyzed girl who was a victim of the original attacks from the Dusters, doing ads to maintain her public image as she ruthlessly maintains order in the city. It goes on, but the point of this is showing how corrupt the system the Dragon Keepers built is, and how they constructed an organization built upon a falsified perception of reality. The world is heavily shaped by the 13 years of war the Dragon Keepers have maintained with their enslaved enemies, characters' motivations shaped by what slips through the cracks of the Rangers' watchful eyes. Foot Soldier D knows this, wants revenge for all the comrades he lost, but struggles to even keep up with some of the subordinates without the help of some key players. Yumiko Suzukiri is a junior first-class member of Yellow Battalion who knows of the facade, rooting for Foot Soldier D's success and helping provide information on the organization in secret. Hibiki Sakurama is a colorist ranger cadet whose, spoiler warning, older sister is the Pink Dragon Keeper and aspires to establish true peace despite harboring a literal foot soldier in his underground dormitory. There are people within the system that outright know the war's a lie, yet go along with it for the sake of their own agendas. It's honestly fascinating to see this world's development over the course of a decade, but I do have to admit the real meat of the story is less interesting. The action is, well, not great. What action we do get is good and gets better over time. However, I think due to the fact that Haruba was coming off of a romantic comedy before this, his composition is much weaker at first than a lot of other shonen of its ilk. The plot is good and is pretty coherent, even some of the side characters come into their own during the current 38 some odd chapters, but I will say there's a lot of exposition overload. Though some of that is again understandable for the sake of the main characters playing mind games and actively tricking each other for their own gain. I like the world, the people who inhabit it, and the setup to becoming a ranger in this setting being a ruthless litmus test. I just think it could benefit from much more showing rather than telling, especially when we get to Foot Soldier D's return to the Rangers after his first major fight. There's also some unexplained things that I will forgive for now because we're still early in the manga. It's ongoing after all despite a hiatus that lasted a few months, so I'm interested to see the direction things are going, especially with the reveal of an executive of the Dusters still running around and the further characterization of its many side characters. I think, like the concept of Power Rangers Hexagon, it has the potential to be something really special if it keeps on the path it's on. Ranger Reject, for all of its faults, is a very fun manga. I'm obviously biased due to my love of the subject matter and its execution being less fight and more dialogue driven, but it's an entertaining read that deserves more attention. I do think it has its problems that hamper it from becoming a hit like Jujutsu Kaisen or a big boy shonen series, but it's something that I'm really glad exists. There's something here for everyone looking for a twist on a typical action series, something that does attempt some cerebral elements despite not being quite as smart as it wants to seem. And again, that's okay. Super Sentai, and by extension Power Rangers, are shows made for children and very old fans of the concept. They revel in their silliness and love their continuities to the point of referencing them time and time again. They try to be smarter and go beyond their means in some storylines or flat out entire seasons, but at the end of the day, it's dumb fun. And I think sometimes dumb fun is all we want, and this manga is for fans of that kind of fun and then some. So, go, Loser Ranger, and thank you for watching.